We are now at 3F, which is one-step inequalities. So the first one, I'm going to draw my river here, and I know that I need to get rid of this division. So how do I get rid of division? I multiply. I multiply by the number that I'm trying to get rid of. I'm trying to get rid of this -5, so I'm going to multiply by -5. And whatever I do on this side, I also do on this side. So these cancel out because if you really want to think about it, it's kind of like putting a 1 underneath it. You've got a -5 on the top and you have a -5 on the bottom, so they cross out. So I'm left with M, and then I come over here and a -3 times a -5 is a +15. Now we need to look at what we just did. Remember, the rule is if you ever multiply or divide by a negative on both sides of an inequality, what happens to the symbol? It flips. So instead of a less than or equal to, it's now a greater than or equal to. So I'm going to put this number on my number line. It's going to be 15. I'm going to use a closed dot over 15, and it's going to point in the same direction as my symbol. So I'm just going to kind of draw my arrow here. So now when I get into my check, I can use 16 or 17 or 18 or 19 or 20 or any other larger number in my check. But it's going to make the most sense to divide a number, choose a number that will divide by 5 evenly. I mean, you can choose 16 if you want to. You're just going to have to deal with the decimal. So I'm probably going to choose 20. So I'm going to put 20 up here. Remember, you don't want to use the actual number that you got in your inequality because that's not going to help you make sure that your arrow is pointing in the right direction. Okay, so I come back here and now it's just a math problem, right? I'm not dividing by -5 on both sides. I'm just doing it on this side. So there's no reason to flip that symbol. I just do the math. +20 divided by -5 is going to be a -4. Okay, I bring this down and now I ask myself, is -4 truly less than or equal to -3? And it is. +4 is greater than +3, but -4 is less than -3. So I know that I'm right. Moving on to B, I'm going to draw my river. And I need to get rid of this minus 5.2, so I'm going to add 5.2 on both sides, making sure that I line up my decimals. These cancel out. I'm left with N. I know that my symbol does not flip yet because I have not multiplied or divided by a negative. So I still have a greater than symbol, but now I need to do the work. So because this is a negative and this is a positive, the signs are different, which means I'm going to subtract, which means when I subtract, I actually want to put the 5.2 on the top and the 4.3 on the bottom. And I'm going to have to borrow because I can't do 2 minus 3. So I borrow from the 5 and make it a 4, and the 2 becomes a 12. 12 minus 3 is 9. 4 minus nothing, or excuse me, 4 minus 4 is nothing. So I get 0.9. And now I ask myself, is it positive because 5.2 is bigger, or is it negative because 4.3 is bigger? And it is positive. So my answer is 0.9 is greater than n, but that is really tricky to graph. We want to flip these babies around here so that my variable is first and my 0.9 is last. And since I've flip-flopped the order, I got to flip-flop the symbol. And so now if this is 0.9 and maybe this is 1.0 and let's say this is 0.8, I'm going to have an open dot and it's going to point in the same direction as my symbol. Okay, this is a perfect example of when you can use a 0 as your check because the arrow is pointing and it's going to hit 0 and keep on trucking. I like 0 because it really makes life easy. If I take 0 minus anything, well, it just basically goes away and I'm just left with this, minus or negative 5.2. I bring down my other side, negative 4.3, and now I ask myself, is this true? Well, yes, negative 4.3 is greater than negative 5.2. So I've got it right.